Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So, when you think of the Sunset Strip in the 80s, you picture the party, right? The hairspray, the spandex.
The excess, the never-ending party.
Exactly. But today, we're talking about a story that takes that party and drags it through decades of federal courtrooms, tragedy, and, well, corporate warfare.
We are talking about the band RATT.
We are. And this isn't your typical rise and fall story.
No, not at all. With RATT, you get the rise, a really tragic fall, and then this vicious legal war over who even gets to be RATT. And then, somehow, a reinvention now in 2026.
It's why our sources today are so strange. We've got Stephen Pearcy's memoir, Sex, Drugs, Rat and Roll on one side.
And then we have these bone-dry court orders from the Central District of California on the other.
It's a where are they now? That's also a legal thriller.
And the legal stuff is honestly just as wild as the party stories. I mean, you have a federal judge calling a band member's legal arguments vexatious.
Vexatious, that is not a word you hear every day in rock and roll.
Not at all.
We are definitely going to unpack that. Because when judges start handing out six-figure fines for lawyer fees, you know things have gone way off the rails.
For sure. But before we get to the lawsuits, we have to go back. We have to understand what was at stake.
Back to the beginning. San Diego, 1976.
Right. It all starts there with Stephen Pearcy forming a band called Mickey RATT.
And I think people forget they weren't an LA band at first. They were grinding it out in San Diego.
No.
But then a certain guitar legend gives them some advice.
A pivotal moment. Eddie Van Halen. Van Halen was already huge by then, and he basically tells Pearcy, you're dying down here. You've got to move to L.A.
And they did. January 1980. But you have to think about what that meant. The Sunset Strip was a gladiator pit.
Oh, yeah. Mötley Crüe was coming up. Quiet Riot. It was crowded. You couldn't just be a good band. You had to have a look, a brand.
And they understood that. They had a name for it.
They did. Fashion rock.
Fashion rock. I love that. Pearcy described it as a mix of Elvis and John Wayne, but with guitars.
Which is brilliant, right? They were setting themselves apart from the gritty punk scene and, you know, the New York Dolls glam thing. They wanted to look like they already belonged in arenas.
They were dressing for the job they wanted.
Exactly. And it worked. They put out an independent EP in '83. Atlantic Records signs them, and then boom, 1984.
Out of the Cellar. Triple platinum.
And that's when we get Round and Round. That song was a cultural sledgehammer.
It was everywhere. The video had Milton Berle in it. I mean, who does that?
It was perfect for the MTV era. They just nailed it.
And that's the rise. But once you hit that level of fame, the lifestyle, it goes into overdrive.
Absolute excess. And the symbol of that whole era for them was their tour bus.
The Rolling Hilton.
That's what they called it.
But the reality of the Rolling Hilton sounds pretty gross. The sources describe lingerie hanging from the ceiling, just a constant party.
Pearcy admits it in his memoir. He said after about 3 weeks of nonstop partying, the bus smelled funky.
Pucks.
Yeah, he compared it to a boat that's been out at sea too long. You can just imagine it.
Stale beer, hairspray, and bad decisions. And the substance abuse was just off the charts. Heroin, cocaine, alcohol.
It was the fuel. And there's another story with Eddie Van Halen that just perfectly captures how, how dysfunctional that whole scene was.
The vodka story. It's so absurd.
So Eddie is trying to hide his drinking from his wife at the time, Valerie Bertinelli.
Right. So he starts stashing bottles of vodka in Stephen Pearcy's freezer.
And in the bushes outside his house.
In the bushes, you've got one of the biggest rock stars on the planet crawling through shrubbery to get his booze. It's funny, but it's also really dark.
It shows you the level of dependency. And that kind of environment, it just breeds tension. You get what they called lead singer disease.
LSD. Pearcy's ego gets bigger, and the band starts fracturing. It's Pearcy versus the drummer, Bobby Blotzer. And then you have the two guitarists.
The Terror Twins, Warren DeMartini and Robin Crosby.
And this is where the story turns. We have to talk about Robin Crosby.
In the early days, Robin was the guy. They called him King.
He was 6'5",
yeah,
handsome, dated Tawny Kitten. He was the quintessential rock star.
The visual anchor of the band. But underneath all that, there was this deep insecurity. He felt overshadowed by the other guitarist, Warren DeMartini.
Because DeMartini was the technical wizard, right? The shredder.
Exactly. He was a prodigy. And Crosby was a great rhythm player, but he couldn't keep up with Warren's solos. That insecurity just fed right into a terrible heroin addiction.
He was using to cope with feeling like he wasn't good enough for his own band.
And it all came crashing down on their 1990 tour in Japan.
A complete disaster. He was on stage, playing the wrong songs, visibly just gone.
You can't hide that live. It was the end. He left the band in '91, and the whole thing kind of dissolved right after, when grunge took over.
But for Crosby, leaving the band wasn't the bottom. It got so much worse.
In 1994, he's diagnosed with HIV.
Probably from a dirty needle. And the stories from that time are just devastating. He goes from selling out arenas to living in a shack in North Hollywood.
A literal shack. He lost everything. The money, the fame, the friends.
And we should clarify something about his death. The common story is that he died of AIDS.
Right, but that's not what the sources say. He died in 2002 from a heroin overdose. His health was certainly weak, but the addiction is what killed him in the end, and he died pretty much alone.
It's just heartbreaking. And you'd think that losing a founding member, a brother, in such a tragic way would bring them all together.
You would hope. But it seems like it just cleared the way for a war over the assets. The heart of the band was gone, so it became all about the wallet.
Which brings us to the legal thriller portion of this deep dive.
Enter Bobby Blotzer, the drummer, and a corporation called WBS Inc.
Okay, so break this down. What was the scheme here?
It's a bit complicated, but basically, Blotzer claimed that back in 1997, the rights to the name RATT were assigned to his corporation.
So the drummer's saying, I am the band. I own the logo. I own the name.
Pretty much. And he started touring as RATT, but with a bunch of, hired musicians. He was the only original guy.
And obviously, Stephen Pearcy and the bassist, Juan Crucier, were not going to let that happen.
No. They took him to federal court. And we have the ruling here. It wasn't just a loss for Blotzer, it was a complete demolition.
The judge granted summary judgment. What does that mean in plain English?
It means the judge looked at the case and said, there's not even a debate here. Your argument is so weak, we don't even need a trial. It's a knockout punch.
Wow. So the court said he never owned the name.
Never owned it. But the judge didn't stop there. This is where we get back to that word.
Vexatious.
Vexatious. Normally, both sides pay their own lawyers. But the judge called this an exceptional case because Blotzer's side was filing bogus motions, making baseless claims of fraud, just trying to bleed the other side dry financially.
So they were being legal trolls.
Exactly. And the judge made them pay for it. He ordered Blotzer's side to pay over $232,000 of Pearcy and Crucier's legal fees.
$232,000. That is a message. The court is basically saying you wasted everyone's time and you were malicious about it.
It's about as big a slap on the wrist as you can get in a civil case.
Okay, so they win. They get the name back. They get their fees paid. So now, fast forward to today, early 2026. You'd think we'd see a big RATT reunion tour poster.
You would think, but that's not what's happening. And this is the final twist.
Okay.
Stephen Pearcy is touring. And the huge news is that Warren DeMartini, the guitar wizard, is back with him.
That is huge.
Yeah.
DeMartini has basically been a recluse since 2018.
Yeah, getting him back on stage is a massive deal for the fans. But look at the posters for the tour. They aren't calling it RATT.
What are they calling it?
They're touring as Pearcy DeMartini, or under a tour name like the Invasion Celebration.
Well, why? They won the lawsuit. They have the name. Why not use the billion-dollar brand?
Pearcy hints at it. He says they want to avoid brick walls. He wants it to be nice and smooth.
Brick walls sounds like code for legal and financial problems.
It absolutely is. Even though they won, the trademark is still a mess. If they tour as RATT, other people, like maybe Blotzer or Crucier, who isn't on this tour, could try to claim a piece of the pie.
So by calling it Pearcy DeMartini, it's a loophole.
It's a strategic move. We're not the corporation RATT, we're just two guys playing the songs we made famous. It keeps the money clean and the lawyers away.
That's actually brilliant. And the fans probably don't care what it's called as long as those two are on stage.
And the lineup is great. They have Matt Thor on bass, who is in a pre-fame version of the band, Carlos Cavasso from Quiet Riot on guitar, Blas Elias from Slaughter on drums. It's a killer band.
It's just an incredible arc, from kids in San Diego, inspired by Van Halen, to the top of MTV, the tragedy of Robin Crosby.
And then this brutal corporate warfare that almost destroyed the legacy.
And now, in 2026, they've found this pragmatic solution. They realized the brand they fought so hard for was actually kind of toxic.
The name RATT just carried too much legal baggage, so they stripped it all away.
And all that's left is the music.
It really makes you think about legacy, When a band becomes a corporation, can the music actually survive the litigation? For RATT, it seems like the answer is yes. But only because they were smart enough to let the brand name go to save the songs.
The songs outlasted the lawsuits.
It's a survival story. Not the one they imagined back in 1984, but they survived.
That is the perfect place to leave it. The music wins in the end. Thanks for walking us through this whole chaotic saga.
My pleasure.
And thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.